dun, 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 dun. I'm so pumped. I'm fired up about this pit bull thing, dude.
That's like your neck of the woods down there.
Well, and I mean, we'll definitely get into it when we start the show, but like, I j- honestly, it's you see it happen, and you're like, what a great idea, and then you really start thinking about it, and it's like, how obvious is this? Not necessarily to name the stadium after people, but all these alumni and celebrities that are from or live in or went to school in these communities, you gotta they gotta connect with these people, man.
No, I'm with you. I am with you. Tell you what, it got a little warm today at Middle Tennessee.
Did it?
Yeah, got warm quick.
Well, global warming, you know.
Something. No, but it was a good day out there. I had a
Murph, I
good.
was fired up with what Massaro said about the concerts during the tailgate at the
Yes, that's
Grove.
gonna be big.
I am fired up
It's
about
about
that.
it's about time. I know Mason's been a big proponent of reaching out to different country music artists and just people that went to school at Middle that graduated in the music program, trying to get them back. It's and I'll go into detail once we get going, but that's gonna be big. If they
Well,
Tell,
do it
tell
like
them if
they
they need
talking
any
about it,
any openers, anybody to open for them. They got a couple of guys here. We can
Tiff,
we can get a band together.
we can get a band together.
well, you guys do that, and I'll
You're gonna be
MC
the
it.
hype man that's
I'll
on
MC it. Yeah,
stage, like
To be
Yeah,
fully
you can see it,
transparent,
yeah.
Tip, I don't know if we can add anything more to our plate than we already.
that's true. We can go up there and play a couple of tunes,
We got a couple. We got a couple in the holster.
3, 4, 5 songs, and then pass it off to whoever.
No
that's
question.
that's like when you go to a like when I was at that concert a couple weeks back. Like all of them were rock and country, but then the Nelly concert,
What's up, Tim?
like like rappers, I think they just their breath work is not good. And so like Nelly would say like 3 words at a time, but then he would have his hype his hype man next to him. That's pretty much rapping the whole song. And I'm like Nelly, dude, you gonna do any of this?
Boys, it is so close. We are like today. When I was out there and you could just smell it in the air, and you know the pads were thudding up a little bit. Vadi Audio was out there dropping dimes. By the way, we got his interview and Brendan Harris's interview will drop, but probably in the morning. Couple clips. Let me tell you, Brendan Harris, solid as a rock. I thought he was a lot, and you see him in street clothes, you can't really tell, but when they got the pads on, passes the eye test. That's for sure. Starting safety for Middle Tennessee State.
Safety U, DBU of the group of
DBU.
5. You know? Been
Chris,
some
I
good
don't know
ones.
the answer to that question.
What's that?
Do you mean an NFL team? I think anybody can. Christopher G in the chat
Oh, I'm reading it. Yeah.
says, I have a question. Can an NFL contribute to NIL funds? Yeah, anybody can. As far as I understand it, any business can either donate or work out a NIL deal where they get, they can use a specific player or a group, position group, whatever they want to use their name, image, and likeness. So I would say yes.
Yeah, I wonder how that does work. I mean, like, like the Raiders are working pretty tight with UNLV right now. I mean, I know that's just a
He just said that. That's what
Oh.
he was saying. Well, I know that the Davis family donated a bunch of money to the program. Like when I took that tour last year of UNLV, their team room is I can't remember if it's the Al Davis team room, but UNLV works very close with the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Raiders have donated money. I think they let them use their facilities, stuff like that.
and I mean, I'm sure you could work it to where it's the ownership family. Like you may not be able to specifically do the team, like as an organization. But like you look, even like with UNLV, like I mean, maybe you can, but like Tillman Fertitta, the casino guy,
Yeah.
he's put a bunch of money in UNLV, but doesn't he own the Houston Rockets too?
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
guess
he owns
when
a
you get
bunch
that
of
much
stuff.
money, you just own all kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
I mean, if anybody wants to own the group of 5 guys, I'm open. I mean,
I know a pretty good RV dealership company that you know.
that's pretty tight, man.
Got you guys some hats, some keychains in there. And I want to give once we get in the show, I want to give a quick shout out to it. But
we'll get the show started here in a sec. Funny enough, dude, I went to for my real job, I went to an RV dealership in this place called Opelika, Alabama, and I was just chopping it up with them. Dude, those things are ridiculous, first of all. But I asked the guy, I said, "Hey, what's the cheapest thing you got
Speaking
here?"
of the Raiders.
Nice. So what's the cheapest thing you got on this lot? And he was like, probably like 20 grand. And they have out front like this little tiny thing it's maybe a little bit bigger than this desk I'm sitting at. And he was like, no, that thing's one of the more expensive ones. And I was like, why? And he's like, these got this niche group of like, I don't know what you want to call them, you know, these campers that like they want the small no amenities thing.
Yeah.
And he's like they'll just pay whatever just because it's this kind of thing. It's like, no, just ripping people off, huh?
It's wild.
But anyway, I'm ready to get this show started whenever you boys are.
Let's do it.
Good evening. Happy Tuesday. Welcome in to the #1 Group of 5 football podcast in all of the world. This is the Group of 5 guys. If you're new here, if you haven't seen us before, our mission is to be the voice for the Group of 5 football programs, the voice that the mainstream sports media absolutely will not be, unless, of course, Pitbull names a stadium. Then they're all over that. But anyway, we need your help to do that. We need you to follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of 5 Guys. Go to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your best podcasts. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a 5-star rating. Leave a comment. Leave a review. Most importantly, you can tell your family and friends all about us. Or you can go to groupof5guys.com. Check out all of our previous podcasts. And you can get you some merch. On this episode, we're digging into the trenches, baby. Talking top O-line, D-line, groups, and individual players to watch for the 2024 season. We're going to talk a little bit about Murph getting out to Middle Tennessee this morning, watching a live practice. Plenty more. Hope you enjoy the show. Have you had it from somebody born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a tailgate? Doubt it.
I said Michael Pratt has got to show up and play, and boy did he. 394 yards, 4 touchdowns, 48 rushing yards on the ground, and another touchdown.
Projected getting drafted between the 1st and 3rd round. Like, that's incredible.
That's
impressive. Yeah, the wide receivers are absolutely stacked for the Group of 5.
Yeah, I really appreciate you do for the Group of 5 programs, and I think it's great. I think we should get more of this. But you guys are on the forefront of this, and
so I'm thankful for this. I'm glad that you're talking about the Group of 5 because I think they get overlooked.
But it's a ton of fun to watch a guy go to the NFL from a Nevada or a Colorado State or a Middle Tennessee or an App State, you know, and fans follow that kid.
Well, boys, breaking news. I've been talking about it all day. I'm fired up about this now. FIU Pitbull Stadium down there in Miami, Florida. Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide, and I'm afraid to say it, Mr. Group of 5, Pitbull is now a Group of 5 guy. I mean, honestly, I think it's brilliant. I think I don't know how long this has been in the works. I mean, FIU's been sort of trying kind of gimmicky things, right? The last couple of years, trying to draw interest, getting a little more media. And this one is a big deal now.
I think they hit it out of the park. I mean,
Yeah.
you got everybody, every media outlet. It's funny how that works. Is talking about it today and
Isn't it?
wondering, But I've heard a lot of people that saying they don't like it. For some, I don't really understand the reasons why. But it's like I think this is a win-win for everybody. Especially he's a local guy. He's always repping the 305, and for him to do that, I think it's awesome. It's good publicity for everybody, and now the program gets a big lift. Like, I don't see the negative behind it.
Well, let me read off, and this is I'm going to shout out Chris Vanini. He's all over this. Here's some of the stipulations of this agreement. So Pitbull Stadium. So Pitbull is the quote official entrepreneur of FIU athletics. He'll create an FIU anthem. He gets to use the stadium up to 10 days per year, I'm guessing for concerts and whatnot. He gets 2 suites for all football games. And there will be a Pitbull affiliated performer at games. And Pitbull is required to make 12 social media posts per year to promote FIU. He's also required to appear at 1 3-hour fundraiser for FIU athletics per year. I mean, you see what happened to the Chiefs when that Taylor Swift got in the suite for a couple games. I mean, I highly doubt he's going to be at every home game, but maybe. I mean, if he lives relatively close, and especially when FIU's playing on Tuesdays and Thursdays and stuff like that. I mean, and the biggest plus for me is you're going to get people that are going to want to be in the stadium just for the chance that they can see the guy. I mean, that's it. Just to turn around and take a picture of Pitbull standing in the suite. And one of his up-and-coming artists, you never know who that might be, performing it, whether it be halftime or maybe after the game, should keep people butts in seats a little bit longer. It's going to get more excitement around the tailgate. I mean, I guess the only, like, to play devil's advocate, I guess the negative could be, like, it is a little gimmicky, right? It's like, Pitbull. And people, Pitbull's very pop,
Yeah.
Now, he wasn't like that, though. Now, when Pitbull came out, he was strictly rap, like street rap, about all the Miami stuff that you might think they talk about or do in Miami. It was all about. But then somebody got in his ear and was like, hey, look, dude, if you put on a suit that's a little bit too tight and start talking about salsing, sweating, and you'll make a lot more money. And that's what I think, too. You notice that official entrepreneur of FIU athletics. So you want to talk about a guy, when you're recruiting, right? They're talking about players are asking about NIL. They're asking about opportunities. Well, hey, dude, I got I'm one line away from Pitbull. What do you got? What did somebody say in the chat?
Scotty B said, my wife is half listening and she heard Pitbull and said, what's happening? The Pitbull effect. See, it works.
Your wife's a group of five. I bet you right now when FIU is playing, it's Miami Vice night. It's Wednesday night. They're playing New Mexico State. Your wife's going to be like, hear the announcer, Pitbull Stadium. What? Pitbull Stadium? People are going to watch.
I'm telling you.
I mean, and seriously, from a business perspective for these players, like, look, man, you're a phone call away, or you're going to have ample opportunity to meet with the guy or other business people in his circle. Going to come speak to the team, I'm sure. I mean, you're going to learn more from a guy like that than you will in any business class at the university, I'll tell you that. No disrespect to FIU, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
But, I mean, I like it with this NIL stuff.
Who's next? Luke Combs Field?
Luke Combs
Up in
Field,
Boone?
Swindell Stadium.
Who's the other one? Who's the real guy that went to Abbott? Eric Church?
Yeah, that guy's a fraud. Huh? They'll be naming him Chapel Hill, naming that stadium after him. Yeah, I mean, I went back to middle, right? Tay Keith Field, Hardy Stadium.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Pitbull went. I don't think he.
No, I don't
went
think he
there. But pretty cool. More incentive to get down there and check out the Panthers. But here's the thing now.
Here's the deal. If we're hanging out with Mike McIntyre, our good friend, did the group of 5 guys get in front of Pitbull?
I mean, I think we're in the suite with him, aren't we? He's got 2 of them.
I mean, let's get one of them.
I mean, listen.
There's our investor right there, Sprouse.
Buddy.
Mr. 305 himself.
He'll make a group of 5 anthem. You know, do yourself a favor. Look up Pitbull from like I don't know when, like 2005 ish maybe. He's got a couple songs. He's got a song with Lil Jon called the 305 Anthem. I'm sure you guys have heard that one. Do yourself a favor. Born and raised in the county of Dade. Listen to his verse on that. That ain't the Pitbull we know today. I'm telling you that much.
You get older, Sprouse, you know.
But basically, you know what he's done? He went from one side of Miami to the other side is what he did.
That's exactly right.
So, but anyway, that's a pretty cool story. But yeah, I agree, Jeff. I do think there's going to be a domino effect here. I think it's going to spark some with some other people. But either way, got people talking about him. Now, get out there and support the team. Get a little home field, get a little home field atmosphere, win a couple of games. You got a chance.
We're definitely rooting for Coach Mack.
There's no doubt about it. And we'll get into that in our conference preview shows. But what is this, year 3 for him? Look at his history as a head coach now. Look at year 3 and year 4, and he's been a rebuild guy. So that's all I'll say for now. But what about Conference USA? How'd middle look this morning, Jeff?
Before I get into middle, let me just say, Sprouse, I have a whole new respect for what you do being the host of this show.
Yeah. Well,
because I had to damn host that thing on my own. Anxiety was high, stress was high, you know. So your intro was flawless on this episode. Mine was not today. But no, it was awesome. Vibe was great. Got to talk to Coach Mason, Coach Stewart, Coach Pascal, the special teams coordinator, and then got a chance to sit down with Nick Vadiato and Brendan Harris. And I don't want to count my chickens, boys.
Oh, Jeff.
Oh, here we go.
Now
Yes.
we do this every
But
year.
I think I'm glad I went there before we did our conference previews because I got a new
Oh, no.
champ
Jeff.
coming out in Conference USA. I'm just saying. Nick Vadiato looked dialed in. He looks more refined than last year. I think he's been a huge key in why the culture is just, I mean, it's just festering over there. Everybody you talk to is just, they're saying the right things. They're acting the right way. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Their receivers look good on the outside. I mean, they got basically an entire new receiving core, all transfers coming in. Holden Willis is back. He was the second leading receiver last year, tight end. The biggest question marks to me are the offensive defensive line, because you basically got 2 new groups other than maybe a couple guys on each side that had a few snaps last year here and there, but not very many starters returning there. But
they look big.
A lot of pieces in a lot of different places. And yes, they look taller than normal. They look longer than normal. So I don't know. I'll give my full in-depth analysis on the Conference USA preview. But yeah, Blue Raiders look good. Vibe is good. Everybody's fired up. Really excited to see this defense. Coach Stewart's got me jacked about certain things he's going to be doing on that side of the ball. If you want to know, go check out the show from this morning. I mean, he gave his philosophy, what he expects out of his guys, and he's just had such a long pedigree of coaching and coaching at a high level. Excited to see what they do on this side of the ball.
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words, the introduction.
I'm never doing that again.
That's why when we travel,
Murph.
You
did great.
Thanks,
You did
Ted.
great.
Well, I was like rushing to get onto the show because I was doing another interview with like a local news station, and they, so I'm hopping back over and I'm getting on, and then start doing the intro, and I was like, Sprouse normally does this, so like, but it was good.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
No, well, see, now when we go travel and you guys are putting together wires and cords and I'm just standing off to the side, now you know why.
You're the talent, my friend.
Calm my nerves, No, but you did great. But I mean, here's the thing. This is what I will say. Don't get me too excited because if you remember, we did that last year.
Yeah.
And we felt good. And you mentioned it this morning on there. The schedule, man, is just tough. It's tough. And I hope it doesn't happen, but historically in Murfreesboro and the students and the fans for Middle Tennessee, they're going to go to Oxford and it's going to be tough. They're going to go to Memphis and it's going to be tough. They got Western at home and it's going to be really tough. So the last couple of years when you've had this schedule where you play your really tough non-conference and then the best teams in the conference, the first 5 or 6 games, now you're, 1-5, 2-4. And then even in whatever people want to say about Coach Stock, even in that era when he'd rattle off 5 of the last 6 and make a bowl game, the energy is just sucked out of Murfreesboro after the first couple of games. And you just hope, you hope they can go in there and remain healthy when they go to Oxford. And then Memphis, I got news for you. That Memphis game is going to be as physical as going to the SEC for them. So, and you just hope some of that energy and that buzz that they have built will stick around if there's some growing pains at first. But I think that what my hope is for Middle right now and Coach Mason and that staff and those guys on that team is if it does start off slow, they can finish, winning 4 of the last 5 or whatever, make a bowl. If they make a bowl game, to me, I think that's a success in year 1. And then I want to compare it to what we've been talking about with South Florida, right? They finish out the season with a bunch of good wins. They get better every single week, and then they beat Syracuse by a ton in the bowl game. The momentum that they carried into the offseason, into recruiting, into the transfer portal, and now going into the season, you have a team that barely went 500 that we're on here talking about has a chance to make the playoff because of all the momentum. So that's my hope for Middle is if it starts slow, man, just stick with them guys, man. Stick with them. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and that was basically my message to the Blue Raider fans is like, don't panic. Don't do what you normally do and say, here we go again, because you see the schedule, but you don't, or you see the record, but you don't analyze the schedule behind it. Just understand that it's a gauntlet through the first 5 weeks, minus Tennessee Tech at home. That'll be a good warm up.
Yeah.
But then you go right into Ole Miss, and that Western game, I'm telling you, that game, if they can beat Western Kentucky, and that's 100 miles of hate, that's a rivalry game. That's always going to be competitive. You can go either way. If they can win that game, doesn't matter, honestly, to me, what they do against Duke or Memphis, because now you roll into conference, and the next biggest game really typically is Jacksonville State and then Liberty. I mean, you have a shot. If you beat Western and you do what even if you lose Jacksonville State, but you beat Liberty, you're in the hunt. So, just stay in there. Blue Raider faithful, what's left. Just hang around.
Well, and the thing about that conference and really all these conferences is this: outside of Liberty, right? Everybody's going to have multiple losses in the conference. So, even if you drop a game to Western or a Jacksonville State or a Liberty or all of them, the way it went last year, Western for whatever reason has 1 or 2 where they're just like, what team is this? And they drop one to a, Sam Houston or somebody like that. But I just think, I think, again, outside of Liberty, I think your next best is going to be a multiple loss team playing for a championship at the end of the season. But anyway, that's the question mark again, though. Can they block? Can they protect Vadiato? He does look good. And I've been listening to stuff. He has really taken on the leadership role on that team. It's been pretty impressive, I would say. And you can kind of see the growth. It feels like he's been there forever, but I guess he really hasn't. But anyway, you boys been watching any Olympics?
Not a ton, to be honest.
I watched a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been keeping up with it. I don't know how the American 3-on-3 basketball teams are just getting smoked every night.
It's ridiculous.
The real basketball they've been
playing well.
Dominant.
They've been playing good. Yeah.
They've been
track and field
dominant.
Starting right now. Like that's been. Did you watch the 100-meter?
Well, I watched. And I watched Sha'Carri Richardson get torched in the 100-meter. But they, I don't know track like that. Obviously, I'm not a track guy. But they said she's always been bad off the block. Like her start is bad. And like we're talking about the Olympics here.
Yeah.
Like how are we?
Are you bad out of the blocks?
I mean, she's still beating everybody in the U.S., but she got smoked. I mean, it was a full.
Yeah. She was the favorite going into that 100-meter.
And the men's was like controversy, wasn't it? Weren't they
photo finish
same time? Supposedly.
The American won by like 0.005 seconds or something. It was something crazy. They interviewed him afterwards, and he was like, something was just telling me to lean forward. That's the only reason why he won, was that when he leaned forward. It was a great finish.
Yeah, that's all. That's all, dude. The Olympics, so funny to me how, like, without disrespecting Olympic athletes, like a lot of those sports are just not at all what we consider athletic events in the U.S. You watch it and it's just like, man, like how are we losing?
Oh, is breakdancing that's not an Olympic sport?
How, like the fact that China is like, you just think about that, okay?
Be
for
careful,
a second.
be careful,
being
Sprouse.
careful. Relax. I mean, like you look at everyday Americans that are athletic, and then but see, China and countries like that, they're born and they're like, you're gonna be an Olympic pommel horse guy, and that's
all they do.
What they do, yeah. So there are people that are elite, are super elite. I think Americans are we have a lot more everyday athletic people. But when you're talking about the elite of the elite, they're born for that. But you got field hockey out there. Yeah, I mean,
it's all kind of stuff, man.
Do all those people work? I mean, they got to be working regular jobs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I bet a majority of them are.
They're not getting paid. You imagine you're just on the Olympic bus. You're the U.S. handball representative, and you're sitting on the bus next to LeBron James and Steph Curry. You just stay, but those guys don't stay in the Olympic Village. They got their own.
Yeah,
they got their own deal. But what if they were? Could you imagine?
There's no way LeBron and those guys are sleeping on those
cots.
cardboard built beds.
No, LeBron's in a suite at the nicest hotel with his whole family and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
going back to the 3-on-3 basketball, speaking of LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, why are those three guys or any three guys on the U.S. men's team and women's team not playing? Like, why are they not playing in the 3-on-3s?
Or why is it Jimmer Fredette is our best guy, and you got all these guys that got snubbed off the 5-on-5 team? Like, give me Jaylen Brown on the 3-on-3 squad.
Yes.
I mean, we got to win. I mean, this is the Olympics we're talking about. Our country is getting laughed at for a lot of things. But when it comes to sports, especially basketball, ones where the professional leagues are in our country, we got to win, man.
I agree.
There's some that I feel like we should be more competitive in. Rugby, for example, men's rugby. I know there's a lot of good rugby teams out there, like different countries, but I feel like you mentioned, Sprouse, with the amount of athletes that we have in this country, I feel like we should be able to at least medal. Now the women, they did medal. I don't know if you saw that finish. That was phenomenal ending for them to win bronze.
Well, see, I think we gotta. I think if we want to be competitive in men's rugby or any of these sports, you got to take a bunch of guys that played college football or wrestled in college, that there's not a path for them after. They're not going to play professional football, but they're these fullback types, these tight end types that are just I mean, rugby is all about lower body strength.
Well, so in the Olympics, they've been doing, it's called 7, so it's just 7-on-7, so it's speed. So just and size too. That's where a lot of those other countries.
So put the cheetah out there, give him a damn rugby ball, and just let that dude work.
100%.
Put him out there. Anyway, what else? You guys do anything else this weekend? I got to tell you guys about this. I've been getting my ass kicked in the last month. I mean, you guys know my wife got in an accident, totaled the vehicle, finally got her new car, but the day before we went to get her new car, my truck needs a new radiator, and I got it back today, 2.5 weeks. So my wife goes 3 weeks without a vehicle. We buy her a new car, and then my truck goes in the shop, and I'm like, well, sweetheart, I got to take your new car to work every day. So she's been over a month with no vehicle, just cooped up in the house. But anyway, we're finally back in action. But it's my kid's 4th birthday this weekend. We had a really good time, really good little kid's birthday party. You know, the Sprouses always do it big on the birthday party deal. But we got him a swing set. And this is not your swing set that we grew up with in the 90s with like a slide, a ladder, and the monkey bars. This ain't that. This looks like a tiny home with
Did you put it together?
no. Listen, so keep in mind, I bought it this weekend and I didn't have my truck. So that was like problem number one. Fortunately, it fit in my wife's vehicle with all the seats down and me like up against the steering wheel. So I drove it home, and then I had to ask a neighbor to help me carry it. It comes in 4 boxes that are like probably 8 feet long, and then the slide is 8 feet long separate. So these 8 foot long things, the boxes are probably, I mean, I couldn't tell you how much they weigh, 400 pounds probably.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
hefty.
so we carry it. So me and this guy in the neighborhood, we carry him to the backyard. I put him in, and I'm asking people, and I'm looking at reviews on how long it's supposed to take, because my patience level with like kids toys and stuff, and I tend to get frustrated and like force things, you know what I mean, and I end up breaking stuff. So I'm asking people, and they're like anywhere from 15 to 20 hours. So I'm like, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just limit myself to like 2 hours per day, and then on Saturday, Sunday, I'll put like 5 hours into it. But all I did today was take it all out the box and like
Organize it.
it alphabetically, which, by the way, can I make a suggestion to the toy manufacturers in the country? Why do they label these pieces like, so everything's labeled like MG09,
Yeah.
and there's like 20 of those, and then there's only 2, MG07s. And then when you go to read the instructions, it's like, you know how it is. Step 1, take MG09 right, screw F325, and then they give you this little ass Allen wrench, like you're supposed to put it together with that. Thank God I got my own stuff for that. But I'm like, why do they not just say there's 300 pieces? Why do they not just label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then say, step 1, take board number 1, put it next to board number 2, and screw them together? I don't understand that. So anyway, I have like 300 pieces of wood just all in my backyard right now. So that's all I did today. And
Patience, my friend.
That
Patience.
took like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Just to get it organized halfway.
I had to do the same. So I built one for my son probably, I think, 2 years ago. And I had to do what you're thinking about doing, Sprouse. I had to like 2 or 3 hours a day. And I got it done in like 5 or 6 days or something.
Welcome to fatherhood, Sprouse.
Yep.
Well, here's the
rite
funny
of
thing.
passage.
Sam's Club. So Sam's Club, I thought it was on sale. They have a thing. I guess I'm about to have to tell you how much it costs. They have a tag on it, and it says $899.99. I'm like, oh, this thing's about 50% off. So I go to pull the trigger, and the guy's like, oh, no, that's how much we charge to install it for you. Yeah, shit. I was like, oh, no, buddy, I don't believe in paying somebody for something I can do by myself. Even if
Best you wish you would have ended up now.
I'll wish. I'll let y'all know. I mean, by the time we get
let us
on here
know how it
next week,
goes.
I probably won't have it done yet. So
No, not a chance.
they say you really only need help when you're going to put
Bigger sections together,
where
like
this-
holding.
my Siri is hearing me right now. Sorry about that. When like you're putting the bar that the swings are on when you're connecting it. But you should see this. The damn thing's like 3 levels. It's got a tunnel. It's got the telescope and all this stuff. Dude.
Happy birthday, Cam.
Can't you go climb a tree, kid? I mean, my God. Anyway, we got to talk football. Can we talk football?
Absolutely. Let's get to it.
We know we talked about all these other position players. Next week, by the way, we got to hit wide receivers and tight ends. A lot of good pass catchers in the group of 5 right now. A lot of good ones. So we're going to keep that episode solo. But we know we talked about QBs. We talked about running backs. We talked linebackers. None of these guys are going to be anything without O-line and D-line. And we know this. Linebackers ain't going to be anything unless they got interior D linemen that can take on double teams. Some of these DBs aren't going to be anything unless there's a decent pass rush. Running backs, quarterbacks, we know. Got to have blocking, got to have protection. So let's talk O-line. I know it's not very exciting. There's not really stats to go by. So a lot of this stuff is just going to be from the eye test and from draft projections and stuff like that. But I guess I'll start. Let's start O-line if you guys are good with that. I want to start. This is a guy that's pretty high on everybody. All the magazines have Clay Webb out of Jacksonville State. Now, he's a Georgia transfer, which is probably why he's getting a lot of love. But I watched actually a few games. He's like your old school lineman, and he wrestled in high school, I found out. So he's like your guy that just wins off leverage, being the low man. Like he's not super technical, I wouldn't say. I like run blocking is definitely his forte. This is the guy that when board drills come around, like he ain't losing to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's not because he's necessarily bigger than everybody, but he's got that wrestling background. So he's just strong, dude. Just like old school, powerful lower body, just moves people, man. I don't know if y'all had anything else on that guy, but Jack State, I mean, that's a reason why they overachieved. I don't even want to say overachieved, just surprised people last year. And they're going to be pretty good again this year. Other guy I had, this is a name. This guy's going to be on the all name list. Tiger Shanks, right tackle out of UNLV. He's played a little guard in his career, but I went back and watched the Wyoming game. And so I don't want to, sometimes when I try to talk O-line, not that I'm some kind of guru, but I try to talk like I'm talking to my wife, like so it could be understandable. But like if you watch him play, fantastic double team and get into the second level. So fantastic at a couple steps, getting a little shoulder, helping the guard, and then climbing up to the backer for big plays. Watch that Wyoming game. Bunch of plays where they broke all their rushing touchdowns were him in the second level, basically pushing a linebacker into the end zone. But Tiger Shanks,
Great name.
Great name. UNLV. Look out again. UNLV surprised a bunch of people. Not surprising when you find out they got a good O-line. I got a couple more. I'll let you guys drop one or two in there before I finish. And then Murph, I know you have O-line groups to talk about. So you guys, or I'll keep going if y'all want me to.
No, I got it. I thought you said tip. Yeah, I got groups. I got a couple of groups and I got a couple individual guys, but I'll start with probably one of the best groups in the group of five, I think, is the Memphis Tigers. Their offensive line was great last year. They were returning a lot of starters from a year ago. They only allowed 19 sacks last year. I mean, that's just an incredible number. Top 20 in that category. But Xavier Hill is the guy that I really want to dive in on. I mean, 6'4", 320 pounds, and he played all over. The games I watched of him, played some at right tackle, some at left tackle, some at guard. Very versatile guy. I think he's going to, hopefully find a permanent spot at the guard position this season. But incredibly agile for being that big. I mean, he was, when he was at the tackle position, nobody really beat him off the edge. When he was inside and he was pulling, I mean, incredibly light feet, agile for a big guy like that, which is what you want, especially when you're either pulling or you're trying to get to that second level. You got to be able to go step on linebackers' toes and engage them. You can't wait for them to attack you. And he was second team All-American last year, projected to be first team, and he's on the Outland watch list, which is the best interior lineman in the country. Now they narrow that down as the year goes on, but just being on that list is an incredible honor. So Xavier Hill out of Memphis was a guy that I had.
Yeah, I like that one. And another guy, I'm sure you guys have the Boise State O-line as a group. Boise State's pretty much been O-line U in the group of five over the years. Their leader, another name guy, Cage Casey. I mean, you want to talk about this Mountain West O-line. Give me Tiger Shanks and Cage Casey out of Boise State. Everybody knows about Ashton Genty, right? But this team, as a team, rushed for over 3,000 yards rushing last year. So this is a leader. Doesn't matter how special your running back is, and we know Genty is, but you rushing for 3,000 yards as a team. That's O-line. Cage Casey is the leader of that bunch.
And Boise State, they're returning 4 starters from last year's team. You mentioned Cage Casey. We got Ben Dooley and Roger Carrion at guards. And then you got Mason Rudolph at center. He also played some guards, so they got some versatility there in the center. They do have to replace their right tackle, Cade Beresford. He went to the NFL last year, so it looks like Redshirt sophomore Hall Schmidt is going to be their starting right tackle. I'm seeing that he's taking a majority of the first team reps right now. So there's your starting five right there. And they're this Boise State offensive line, they're ranked 23rd in Phil Steele's offensive lineman rankings for 2024.
Is Ben Dooley? I'm just asking for myself here. Was he somewhere else? I'm about to look it up.
While you're looking that up, I'm gonna stay in the Mountain West for a second and talk about Fresno State. I think between them and Boise, you're talking the two best offensive line groups in the Mountain West. Fresno State's returning 4 starters on that offensive line, but Mose Vaveo, he was a second-team Mountain West guard last year. They're moving him to center after they lost their first-team center from a year ago. But, I mean, this kid's 6'3", 320, just going to be an incredibly important piece to that offense, calling out the line protections and the slides and where everybody's going at the center spot. Just having a veteran leader like that, controlling your offensive line, and then just his physical tools. I think this offensive line collectively is going to be the biggest, most physical offensive line they've had. If you watch their film from last year, I mean, they did a great job in the run game, allowing Malik Sherrod to get to the second level. It starts with the offensive line. Fresno State was a team that is going to have a great offensive line this year.
It's funny how a lot of these teams or programs, they always churn them out. They always churn out good O-lines. All the ones that we've mentioned really so far. I mean, you think earlier we talked about how physical Memphis is. They always got big physical guards, physical offensive and defensive line. Boise State, obviously. Mountain West is a great O-line conference. It really is. It really is. And that's typical, right? Midwest, Mountain West, and then the MAC always puts out good O-linemen too. The only other guy I had individually, Arkansas State, Jacob Bayer. So he's a Lamar transfer, FCS Lamar transfer. But in 2022, they had only 2.8 yards per carry, 88 yards rushing per game. They get some transfers in there. Bayer, basically the leader of that group, went up to 4.2 yards a carry. I know Tip's a big yards per carry guy. 4.2 is not fantastic, but it's basically double what they had the previous year. A lot of people are high on Arkansas State, so there's some expectations.
You do that, 3 times in a row, you're getting first downs every time.
If you're patient and you don't have an offensive coordinator that wants to throw the damn thing all the time, you got a chance.
Well, boys, you know how much I like FCS transfers.
Right? Yeah, here it comes.
Ashanti Cole, offensive tackle, transfer from Grambling State. He's now at Louisiana Tech, 6'3", 316 pounds. So I am looking forward to see what he does down at Louisiana Tech.
Well, you want to talk about size, guys. I got 2 guys that might be the biggest in the group of 5, maybe all of college football. Bowling Green offensive tackle Alex Wolschlager. This guy's 6'7", 305 pounds. He was 3rd team All-MAC last year. I think he's going to make a big jump this year. Needs to work a little bit on his flexibility, but he got better throughout the season last year. So if you just keep an eye on him, I think he's going to be a name to watch. And anytime you got a big frame like that, I mean, you're going to be on NFL teams' radar. And then the last guy is the entire, group, and then I'll talk about the guy, the Liberty Flames offensive line.
Yeah.
They're replacing a lot of guys from last year, but one guy who's coming back is Xavier Gray, 6'8", 335-pound tackle. Started all 14 games last year. Just an absolute mauler of a guy. I mean, no end is getting around him. His arms are too long. If he gets engaged with you, you're not coming off that block. And it's one of the reasons why they were the top rushing, one of the top rushing attacks in the country. What's crazy is dude's only a sophomore. So we're going to be seeing Xavier Gray for the next year at least, I think, if not 2.
Well, and on both of those guys, for Gray, he's young, so he'll grow into that frame even more. And then I don't want to butcher his name, but the guy at Bowling Green, that reminds me of Driscoll. Remember Ethan Driscoll last year from Marshall? Because 6'7", 305 is lean.
It is lean.
That is lean.
Yeah.
So that, like you said it exactly right. That's somebody that an NFL scout or GM is going to look at and be like, probably be 340.
Easy.
And we'll get this guy solely because of his size, and then we'll, or solely because of his frame, we'll put the size on him, get him on a nutrition plan, and get him right. But there's 2 NFL guys right there.
Absolutely.
No doubt about that.
Speaking of size and an up and coming team, and Sprouse mentioned him earlier, the South Florida Bulls, Zane
Hey,
Herring, offensive guard, 6'5", 300 pounds, playing at guard. So that right there, the whole unit, obviously, all 5 of them, but when you got a guard that's 6'5", 300 pounds pushing people around, that's a pretty good indication as to why Byron Brown and the rest of that rushing attack for South Florida did so well last year, and we expect to do well again this year.
God, these guys are big, dude.
I know. I feel like they've gotten bigger.
Well, whatever happened, maybe
who was Walker was our biggest, probably.
Walker was big
that we played with.
Well, I'm trying to think of that last year. Left tackle was Darius Johnson.
He was pretty big.
But he wasn't. He was real. Like, he was just built.
Yeah.
Like, he was, and he wasn't that tall. He was probably, I don't know, 6'3", 6'4", right? And probably 290.
Yeah.
But he was super athletic. Walker, yeah. I mean, Walker's played in the league. What was he? 6'5", 6'6", 320.
Big frame, yeah.
Then you had Nunez at center, 6'4". He probably played at about 300.
Yeah.
And then you had Grisham and Hamlin, who neither one of them were bigger than, I don't know what Grisham played at, probably 285, 290, right?
Something like that. But I mean, we always had kind of a
280 guys. You had 280,
undersized.
290, and then
running that spread offense. So it just depends on what you're running. But now I feel like the 315 pounders, 320 guys are running like the 280 pound guys.
They got to take them knee braces off of them and let them actually run.
Let them get out in space.
Yeah, that'll help. I think that's the worst thing that ever happened to the offensive lineman. Like,
agreed.
They're so uncomfortable, and especially if you never wore them. Like, I never wore them in high school. We didn't have to wear them when I was at the Air Force, and then they put them on you, and it's like I felt like freaking Forrest Gump when he's wearing them things when he's a kid. the metal leg brace
Magic
things he had.
legs.
That's what I felt like. But anyway, you guys got any more for O-line? I want to mention, and they're not supposed to be as good, but I think Air Force as a unit is going to have a really good O-line again. They always do. They lose a bunch of guys, but let's talk D-line. Number 1 guy on the D-line. We talk about the guy every other episode probably. New Orleans, Tulane, Pat Jenkins, number 0. There's a couple of unwritten rules in college football, and one of them is a single-digit interior defensive lineman is always a problem. I'm going to tell you why. Equipment managers are some of the most like petty.
Real petty.
It's a petty bunch. They're not going to let anybody wear number 0 if they're not a player now, especially on the interior of the defensive line. So that's rule number 1. But I mean, this is the guy. Look, this is the guy that made the big play for the safety in the bowl game against USC. This is the guy that, when we were down there watching him play South Alabama, this is the guy that pretty much ruined that run game that we expected them to have. And this is the guy that was put in the center in Carter Bradley's, front pocket every time he tried to drop back. So Pat Jenkins, we've talked about the guy. This is the specimen, man. This is one of the best ways you can tell, right? You guys know we talk about this all the time. If you get a chance to go to a game and you get a chance to get on the field during warmups, there's always a couple of guys that are cliche built differently than everybody else. And Pat Jenkins is that guy on Tulane. And that's not just at the group of 5, at some low level. I mean, this guy is legit. He'll be on an NFL roster here in due time.
Well, yeah. Sprouse, you mentioned your rule number 1. Do you know what your new rule number 2 is?
No, I don't have a rule. What is it?
It might be your best unit of measurement of all time because I think it's undefeated. It is your calf and glute.
The calf and glute check. Yeah. Hey, well, and honestly, if we were to name a calf and glute award. I think Pat Jenkins was the first guy that we really started saying that about. Was he
No,
not?
it was Solomon, I thought.
It was
At
it probably
Troy.
was Solomon down at Troy. Well, he passed. He guy's on the Buffalo Bills now,
He
isn't he?
did pass, yeah.
Kenty
That's
passed too.
I gotta say now, if there's anything in this life that I'm good at, it's seeing a guy not play football and not, because Solomon was in street clothes, remember?
Yeah.
And it was us three standing there, and I'm just like like a creepy old man. I'm just like, God, who the hell is that guy? Yeah, you come to find out he's leading the country in sacks and all this other stuff, and now he's on the Buffalo Bills. So you're welcome, Pat Jenkins, because you got it too, buddy.
If you're ever with Sprouse at a game and it's always the first person Sprouse sees at a game. He's watching pregame, warm-ups, or the practice or wherever we're at. The first person that he mentions that, oh, that guy just looks different. He looks like he's like he's the man. Go ahead, just take a note of that, and then
watch that guy
and watch him.
Well, see, you got 200 people running around out there, so there's got to be somebody that you notice. This is everybody else looks like everybody else. But I mean, I've been on a nice little roll with stuff like that.
Pretty spot on.
But yeah, a couple other guys. Jeff, I'll let you go. Who you got?
Top guy I got is Boise State defensive end Ahmad Hassanin. 6'3", 270 pounds, coming back. Had 53 tackles on the year last year, 12.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. And this guy just has a motor, man. He just does not stop. If he misses on the first move, he's not stopping. He'll hit you with another move. And he's got a rare combination. I was watching film on him today, and he can beat you with speed around the outside. He can dip and rip, or set you up outside, hit you with the spin coming back inside. This guy's a problem. I mean, you're going to have to double him, put a tight end over there or something, because if you leave him one-on-one with a tackle, more often than not, he's going to win. So look out for Ahmed Hassanin. Pretty sure I said that right, too.
We're going to find out a whole lot about these Boise State.
Real quick.
Yes, we are.
And let me say, they have been going crazy on Twitter, especially on our Power Poll that we put out. Like, them and Liberty have been going back and forth.
Well,
I think since the thing got put out.
Well, I don't know. Look, I don't know where Boise State's getting off at. Did they lose 5 games last year?
Yeah, but
didn't they lose to Washington by 40 points last year?
Their claim is they got significantly better in the offseason, and Liberty did not. That's what they keep saying on Twitter or X.
Well, I think Boise State, I think that's a fair argument, and I think that's why we had them where we had them. Matter of fact, I think Tip had them number 1. Did he not?
I did.
Tip, yeah, you got it.
Boise State 1, Liberty 2.
You better get on there. Yeah. See, that's the thing.
I hope Maddox Madsen's ready to go. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, did you see that? They're competing for that job. Ain't no way.
Yeah, I've heard that story before personally.
But yeah, we're going to find out real quick about Boise State. I mean, look. Again, I mentioned it the other day. Like, everybody's giving Liberty. I just don't understand the people that say Liberty didn't play anybody when the teams that did play anybody got beat pretty bad by those anybody's. So, like, what's the difference? That's what I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like excuses either. Like, when we talked about it last year when New Mexico State beat Auburn.
Oh,
Auburn, they're a bottom tier SEC team, but when Auburn should have beaten Alabama,
Alabama's they wanted to give Milrow the Heisman.
Yeah. So it's like, and then you get, in the group of 5, like we hate on each other, and I really don't understand it, but it's like, Liberty doesn't play anybody. Well, they beat New Mexico State twice, who was the second in their conference. Like, that's an accomplishment. New Mexico State had some good wins. Like, Jacksonville State, another good team. I mean,
well, and
they're playing who's on their schedule.
Well, though you only have to go back a couple of years when Liberty beat Power 5 teams. They beat Arkansas. They beat Virginia Tech. They beat. I mean, I don't know. To be honest, Liberty reminds me a lot of Boise State from 15 years ago.
Boy, you're gonna cause a riot saying that.
Well, they do. Got a lot more money. Gonna happen a lot quicker for Liberty. I hope hope you other Group of 5 schools are ready for that.
They're not going anywhere.
Gary Falwell Senior Stadium, Liberty Flames. I mean, I tell you what.
Williams
now.
Stadium, don't do that. Williams
No, they
Stadium.
like Falwell Senior. Yeah, Falwell Senior is a respectable fella. It's the kid that's a little weird. Is the word we're using in politics now? Yeah, he's a little bit weird. Anyway, so D-line, I want to stay in the Mountain West, and then I'm good on D-line. Jeff, I think you had this guy last year. Guy's been at Wyoming for 6 years. Jordan Bertignoli. I think I said that right. He's an Italian fella.
Yeah, he is Paisan.
So, but boy, Wyoming is sort of flying under the radar again, and I think they're going to be
The
pretty
defense
good.
is tough.
They're
Nasty.
going to be pretty
defense.
good again.
Yeah.
But Bertignoli's the leader of that team, or of that defense.
Well, you got 3 other linemen and edge rushers returning on that D line from Wyoming too. You got Devon Harris, Brandon Sitters, Sebastian Harsh. All 4 of those guys, 13 sacks combined last year. That's 54% of the team's sacks from last year. So, I mean, you're getting that similar, maybe even more production from this line. And we've talked about their linebackers. We've talked about their secondary. This defense is good. They have a good running game. I mean, this is a good team.
They listen.
They were another one
it's
people
good.
were complaining and say that Wyoming was too high.
Somebody, yeah, dude. I really thought, okay, I know we made the poll, but I was really looking at it thinking like, this is fair. That's what it's like. That was my thought. Like I'm looking through it. The only one that I can't believe, and I guess we all missed it, or we all had them at like 26 maybe, but South Alabama, I thought I would put them in there if I were to do it again. I would probably put them over like an Arkansas State, just based on the fact that Arkansas State has got a lot to prove still. But I'm looking at it like all the people that usually get mad. I'm looking at their spot. I'm thinking about who's going to be pissed. I knew people were not going to like that Liberty was number 1. But again, we all had Liberty at 2. But I had Memphis at 1. Tip had Boise State at 1, and Jeff had Tulane at 1. So the way that the points added up and averaged, Liberty had the most points because I might have had Memphis at number 1, but I had Boise State at 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Jeff had Tulane at 1, Tip had them at 4. So they averaged at like 2.5, which put them right there behind the Flames. But anyway, I really thought it was a good poll. But anyway, who else y'all got on the D-line?
I'm going to go out the Sunbelt West. Ben Bell at Texas State. 6'2", 250 pounds. 57 tackles last year, 10 sacks, and a forced fumble. Expecting another big year out of him. I think he'll improve on those numbers. I really do. Because I think the Bobcats are going to be up on a lot of teams this year. So I think he's going to get even more teams that are going to be forced to pass against him. And, again, you give him one-on-one, he's going to eat. So Ben Bell was another one that I had.
I got a guy from the MAC that's on arguably the best defense in the MAC.
Oh,
Probably in the group of 5. Miami of Ohio. You got Brian Ugu, 6'3", 250-pound defensive lineman. Last year he had 62 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks. So looking forward to watching him and see him put up those same type of numbers again. And when you have a defensive lineman like that that's getting in the backfield like that whole D-line unit for Miami, like you mentioned earlier in this episode, Sprouse, it just makes the whole defense play better.
Miami was one that people were.
they were upset about.
They thought they were. What did we have them at 6 or 5? Maybe?
5. Fresno was
5.
at 6.
I mean, they won 10 games. Again, you got to watch them because that's what I noticed. A lot of the comments on that were, well, "Are they good? When did they get good?" Go watch them. I mean, honestly,
That's what I like. That's what I try and do. Like I try and watch the film and then try and back it up with their stats instead of just like looking at their stats and not watching film and just be like, yeah, they had a good record last year, so I'm going to put them here. It's like, no, go back and watch their games. Watch how they played. What's the strength of their defense? How much continuity? I'm big on continuity. Miami's got a ton of people coming back. They were one of the teams that didn't get crushed in the portal in the max. So, and again, we said it, like, preseason polls suck.
It means nothing.
But we were going to pull one out because we want the clicks.
We want the clicks, baby.
I mean, that's what it's about, Get people talking, get people fired up.
Well, and here's the thing for me when I'm looking at a poll, and this is where there's always controversy when the CFP comes out. Is yes, you want the quote unquote best teams, but at the same time, the best teams also have to earn it and show that they are the best, right? Like, you might watch a game and think, oh, well, surely I don't know. I don't know who to use here. Surely Georgia was better than probably everybody else in the playoff last year. But they didn't earn it. They had their chance. They had the chance to prove it, and they lost. So it's like it's a balancing act of, you can't just look better and be 8-5. You also got to back it up. Now, yes, sometimes there's going to be a team that's 11-1 that might not be favored against somebody, but you know what? They won all their games. So, but in the preseason, it's purely speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is.
Now,
we're not going to be the type
after week 1 and week 2.
Well, yeah, and we're not going to be the type that does that. Like, I'm not going to be the type that, well, I have Fresno State at 6, and if they go to Michigan and lose by 30 points, I'm not bumping them down to 7. I'm taking that ass off the list.
Yeah.
Now, I like the CFP does, and you got these teams. LSU will be like 3-3. They'll be number 8 because they lost, but because that's just where they were preseason.
I think too, it's how you lose too, right?
Yeah.
Like, you go up and play Michigan, defending champs. We're gonna watch the game, see how you can tell a lot by a loss too. And the way you lose. So it's just, again, it's all for clicks, boys and girls.
Do we have any more D linemen before we wrap this thing up?
I got a couple.
Rattle them off, Jeff.
All right. Georgia Southern defensive end, Isaac Walker. Coming off the edge, he had 24 tackles last year, 6 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 7 pass deflections. This guy's getting his hands up, making it difficult for the quarterback, and man, he has got some very nice moves, and he's got strong hands. That's one thing I noticed when I was watching this film. Like, he gets that extension on guys, and once he gets that, it's over. Now, tackles, if they were able to get 2 hands on him, he got a little stuck at times. But when he gets the leverage and gets the hands, he dips and goes right underneath them, and had multiple sacks last year. And then just that number was crazy. I was like, am I reading that right? 5 forced fumbles and then 4 fumble recoveries. Like, that's incredible. That's him forcing turnovers for his team and always being around the ball. So I think he's a guy to watch out for. And then the last one I had in Conference USA, Maurice Westmoreland for UTEP. 7.5 sacks last year, 1 forced fumble, 37 tackles. I really like the Miners this year, not just because I got this sweet hat from Tim Meadows, but and by the way, Tim, thank you for the gear and the handwritten letter. Boys, we talk about it all the time. There's nothing like getting a nice handwritten letter. Kind of just lifts the spirits, makes you feel good. And,
didn't we get chastised when we talked about? I think the 3 of us were on the same
I
page
think
on
we
the
were on the
handwritten
same
letter.
page. But no, man, that was appreciate the merch from the dealership and the awesome handwritten letter. But yeah, Maurice Westmoreland, Moreland, out of UTEP. Keep an eye out for that name.
Man, I'm sorry. I'm reading the live chat. Everybody talking shit about my swing set.
It's hilarious.
And I'm not. And people are saying, "Get ready, dude. It's gonna take weeks." I mean,
it's gonna take a long time.
That's all task, my friend.
Yeah.
You know what else is? This is where I feel bad too about it. Is so today, like, all I was doing was unboxing it, and Cam, he turned 4 on Sunday. He's wanting so bad to help, and I'm like, buddy, these gotta stay put right exactly where they are. And he's bringing me he's got his little Paw Patrol backpack, and he's like, Daddy, you got to use my screwdriver. Like, hey, buddy, that ain't gonna work. We need power tools for this. But
no question.
Anyway, That all you got, Jeff?
That's all I got for the D lineman to keep an eye out for. But we do have
I know
a
you got
voicemail we got to get
I know.
to.
Tip, you got any more T lineman?
I got one more.
Give
Go
it to
for it.
us.
Jordan Lawson, defensive lineman, Louisiana, 6'4", 243 pounds.
That's a good size.
Last year, 43 tackles, 7 sacks. A lot to expect. Expectations are pretty high for Louisiana this year.
Yes, they are.
So we'll see how this team does this year. Who knows? You might be able to get what's his name, Napier back as an analyst after this season.
I think he's about to be cooked after this year. They got one of the toughest schedules
they do have a tough
college
schedule.
football. Hell, they didn't want him there in the first place. So
they didn't, though. That's what he gets. I hate to say it. That's
to get him out of there.
That's why you don't go take those jobs, man. You get one rich guy gets something in his head about not liking it, and they just start. I mean, I don't know. I know the Brian Harsin at Auburn was a little bit different scenario, but that was the same. That was sort of the same thing. I mean, they were coming up with all kind of stuff, accusing I don't know what's true or not, of course, but like accusing the guy of having affairs and all this stuff, and like a lot of it turned out to not be true, but they're doing it because they want the guy gone. Now, I don't know if this is the right time to bring this up, but where are all of these journalists in Athens, Georgia right now? That's my question, because I promise you right now, if Georgia wasn't winning, there'd be hit piece after hit piece after hit piece on Kirby Smart and everything that they've done wrong at that place. Where's those guys? Where's those guys that wanted Rick Stockstill fired because his mask fell off once on the sideline? Where's he at? That's my question, because you got Kirby Smart that's got guys, I mean, what are they got? Kidnapping, child abuse, DUIs left and right. A couple people have died. I mean, honestly, and look, I get it. We've been in locker rooms, and there's a lot of people to manage. There's a lot of personalities. There's a lot of upbringings but I mean, at some point, there's a common denominator happening, man. And maybe this NIL thing of giving all these 18-year-olds Dodge Chargers and Challengers ain't the best idea in the world. But anyway, I digress.
That's a good point.
Wait till they lose. Wait till they lose a couple. I promise you this. They're not going to win forever. It might be next year. It might be 5 years from now. Wait till they start losing, and there's going to be an investigation on lack of institutional control on Kirby Smart so they can fire him with cause. Just watch.
Tim in the chat says the UGA 30 for 30 is going to be wild.
It's going to be wild. You know, the U was on over the weekend. I watched a little bit of it. I mean, it's very similar, honestly, to what's going on at Georgia, what was going on there in the 80s. I mean, these guys
Florida team with Tebow and Hernandez and all, Pouncey brothers, all them,
Yep. You just wait for the institutional control to come out of the woodworks the minute they start losing a couple games. But anyway, we got a voicemail to get to. You guys, hey, we got I think one more off-season podcast, and then we're going to hammer out 5 conference preview episodes. We're jumping on a bunch of other podcasts, by the way. Check those out. Fun Belt Podcast, College Football Focused, Get Back Coach. We'll be on those in the next week or two. And then and Jeff was on. Matter of fact, great job on that too,
yes.
Jeff. The ESPN Sioux Falls.
Appreciate it.
We're trying to get out there, trying to get this group of 5 word out in the streets. But look, we got tonight's show. We got next week's show. We got 5 conference preview shows. And then we're playing football. And we need it, boys. But anyway, so that hotline is wide open. Make sure y'all call it with your hot takes, especially for these conference previews. We want to hear each conference, predict your finish, dark horse, all that. 615-900-4286. What is it, 2 minutes, Jeff, they get, or 3-minute limit?
I believe it's 3 minutes. So keep it under 3 minutes or you will get cut off.
Yes, you will. But we got one voicemail to hear tonight, Jeff. Let's hear it.
Hey, guys. My name's Ben. First of all, love what you guys are doing. Love the podcast. So I wanted to ask a little bit about the CFP, what teams you think are going to be like front runners for this season. In my opinion, I'm thinking App State, Boise State, Liberty. maybe Memphis, but really those are the main three I'm thinking. But anyways, yeah, let me know what you think. Favorites for CFP, and what are the odds we get like 2 of those? Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate you, Ben. Appreciate you calling in and asking the question.
Yeah, I mean, he said them. I think you could add Tulane into that mix. The issue for me with getting 2 is all those teams that he mentioned play not just Power 5 opponents, but they play top 5, right? Memphis has to go to Florida State. Boise's got to go to Oregon. App's got to go to Clemson. So I think the key for any of them to be the 1, or if we're looking at 2, you can't get beat badly in those games. You just can't. If you do, you're not going to be able to. You definitely won't get 2 teams in, right? Like if Boise goes to Oregon and loses by 3-4 touchdowns, and then beats everybody else, they could still get in, but they'll be in as the 12, and they'll be playing probably Oregon again or somebody like that. Memphis can't go down to Florida State. Now, my hope is, App could go in there and beat Clemson. I don't think Clemson is they're certainly not what they were a few years back, but they're still Clemson. They're still, one of the favorites, them and Florida State in the ACC. So, got that. I think that's the key, though. Who can – you got to probably win a Power 5 game and not get blown out in your other one. This is kind of the way I'm looking at it to get in.
I think you'd have to have 2 undefeated teams.
So you have to.
Have 2.
I agree.
Well, you get the 1 – well, not necessarily. You get the 1 automatic, right? Mm-hmm. So – I think if you have,
I just think you have to have an Oregon.
Both have to be.
I think you have to have an Oregon, or Memphis, or App State, a team that is that the voters know about, basically.
I do agree with that.
Like if Memphis is good enough, which a lot of people are high on Memphis, and I'm high on them too. Even if they lose to Florida State, but they somehow run the rest of the table, they're in, right? Let's say, and Liberty.
I'm trying to look
goes
realistic,
but they can't lose to Florida State by 30 points.
Well, I know that, but you get an undefeated Liberty, and you get a 1-loss Memphis.
I don't know if a 1-loss Memphis or 1-loss Boise State or 1-loss App State team is going to be ranked like in the top 15 to get that automatic bid. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
to have 2. Because even if Liberty goes undefeated or loses 1, they won't get ranked in the top 15, but they could be that quote unquote automatic bid. I think you would have to have an undefeated Memphis, Boise State, or App State team to hopefully go undefeated and hopefully be ranked in the top 15.
You're absolutely right, Tip. And I mentioned this on our Twitter space the other night, is it will not be a team that doesn't have a decent brand, national brand. It will not be. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're talking about the Sun Belt, if it's App State, they got a chance. But if somebody outside of App State,
I'll give you a scenario.
Give me a scenario, Jeff.
Because you have Oklahoma, and the SEC is going to be more beat up, I think, this year than in years past. You're going to have more. I don't think you're not going to have anybody that runs the table. If there's one, it's probably going to be Georgia. But I think your next couple of teams could potentially have 2 or 3 losses on the season. So that pushes everyone else down. I think the Big 12 is a shell of the conference of what it once was. Utah will probably run that conference. But after Utah, I mean, who's your next big teams? You know what I'm saying? So same thing with the Colorado, Big 10. Buffaloes. So if everyone gets pushed down a little bit, I'm really high on Tulane. I really am. I think I don't think Oklahoma's as good as people think. I don't know much. I haven't looked in depth into these opponents yet. The Power 4 opponents.
Well, they'll both be
Tulane-
ranked. They'll both be ranked
Tulane-
when Tulane plays them.
I know.
That's the good thing for Tulane. That's
If
a good thing for
Tulane-
all of these teams.
Yeah, but if Tulane can mess around and be undefeated, or why not? That's a lot of rat poison, or one
Yeah, but then
loss.
they'll be in. But
And
then
then
nobody
you
else will
have
get in.
Boise State. If they somehow end up being, if you get 2-1 loss, you get a Tulane and a Boise. That's two programs that are damn good. They have the brand recognition, and depending how the other conferences shake out, they might rank one of those teams. Well, they both have to be ranked in the top 12, correct?
To have that happen, yeah.
To have that happen.
Well,
I'm just worried
hey,
that you get a
could
one-loss
happen.
Tulane or one-loss Boise State or one-loss Memphis team, and they're comparing them to a 3-loss SEC team. They're gonna.
Yeah.
I just have a bad feeling they're gonna favor
100%.
that 3-loss SEC team because it's such a tough schedule. That's what they're gonna say.
and because of the
Strength of
preseason
schedule.
rankings. Because of the
Yes.
preseason rankings, because they're
Yeah.
starting ahead.
Well.
I mean, it's like
We're gonna get one for sure. So
yeah, you could get to if there's 2 undefeateds, which and even I'm gonna say something controversial here. You could get 2 if there's 2 undefeateds, and I don't know if you have a Tulane or a Boise or a Memphis undefeated and you had a Liberty undefeated. I don't know for sure that they would put Liberty in just because of
Not
what
after
happened
last
last
year.
year. And they would certainly favor the other team. Now, to me, the debate is undefeated Liberty and a 1-loss Boise, Tulane, Memphis App. That's
Man,
when
what
it's
if there
gonna
was a
get real
scenario?
interesting.
I don't think this will happen just because the Sun Belt is such a gauntlet, like we always talk about. What if there was a situation where there's an undefeated App State team and a 1-loss Liberty team, and Liberty's only loss was to App State?
You gotta give it to App.
I'm saying for both, for them both to get in.
Oh.
I don't know if that would happen. Liberty's credibility is
If
hurt
App
from last
beats,
year.
if App, well, somebody who said that on the space, if App or if Liberty beats App, but App beats Clemson, and then you have a 1-loss App and an undefeated Liberty. But see, I don't know. I mean, I think you'd have to go. I'm sorry. I think you have to give it to the team that wins the head-to-head, especially if the
That's how I
road
am.
team wins the head-to-head. To me, if App beats Liberty by a field goal in Boone, but loses to Clemson by 30, and Liberty beats everybody else, I don't know. But if you win that game on the road,
Yeah, that's a big win.
you got to go head to head. You have a better overall record. You got to go head to head, I think. But you're right. I don't know if they would. Because
crazy
yes,
world.
if App beats Clemson, they'll be in the top 25. And then you're just playing catch up, and you'll have to see what they do. And then the way the rest of the schedule goes, if Liberty's beating, if Liberty, let's say App beats Clemson, they're here. Liberty beats App, they're 17 and 18 at the time. But then Liberty beats Middle, but App beats James Madison. Liberty beats New Mexico State, and App beats Troy. Whoever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the interesting part. But
Well, do you want to give your pick? He asked who he thought the representative's going to be.
Memphis.
Tip.
I'm high on the Tigers. For now. Tomorrow I might change, but
I'm going to go Boise State, but I think it's going to be Liberty again. No losses
I
or
do
one
too.
loss.
I kind of do too.
Roll wave.
See,
I think Tulane.
I do think Tulane has the more doable non-conference.
I like the Tulane pick because it's kind of like that under the radar. Like
Mhm.
A lot of people don't think they're going to be very good. I think people are
I
underestimating the
think so,
John
too.
Summerall effect.
Well,
I
and the
really do.
Ty Thompson.
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned him. You know, they also got Aiden Huntington out of ULM. He's like listed second on their depth chart right now. He had 8.5 sacks last year at Monroe. Came from Kent State, went to Monroe, and now he's on the same defensive line as second on the depth chart for Tulane. I don't know. They seem awful deep in a lot of important positions.
They're going to be very good.
They're going to be good. I'm
They're going
telling
to
you.
be very good.
Not trying to spew any rat poison.
But this is my thought on Tulane. I see. I'm not sure how good Florida State's going to be again. So that's why I like Memphis. If it's the Florida State team from last year, I don't think Memphis can beat them. So and this is my fear for Boise State. They've had Oregon's number the last few times they played, but I realize it's Dylan Gabriel. It's not Bo Nix, but Oregon is a national championship level team. So my fear is that Boise goes to Oregon and gets beat bad. And my fear is that Memphis goes to Tallahassee and gets beat bad. And App goes to Clemson and gets beat. So then Liberty,
I got something else I need to add to this Tulane situation. When they go to Norman and play Oklahoma, it's a trap game for Oklahoma. You want to know why?
Who they got next?
Tennessee in Neyland.
Is that their first SEC game?
Yep.
Too? Ooh.
So you got all little old Tulane, which they'll be coming off of Kansas State, but at home.
Now, who's Kansas State have after Tulane?
I don't think Kansas State, whoever they have, will overlook a Tulane like
Oklahoma could.
Oklahoma will. I mean, they play Arizona. Arizona's going to be good too.
This year. Yeah.
Noah Fafita. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some interesting, but we'll get into that in the conference previews, boys and girls. We got them coming up.
Yes, we will.
Sprouse, take us home.
Did you do an outro this morning?
Yeah, I did
Or
outro.
Did you just hang it up?
No, I did an outro. I replugged the Boulevard Bar and Grill. Shout out to them for sponsoring the episode today. They've been good to us. And thank Murph, thank Ben and his brother Jack for holding down the soundboard and the cameras and stuff, man. It was a good day.
Well done.
I took us home.
I didn't know.
Way better than my intro. I actually went back and listened to it. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah, you're beating yourself up. Like you said earlier, it's like watching film. It's never as bad or as good as you thought it was.
Exactly.
When it was happening. But anyway, hey, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the Group of Five Guys. Make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms at Group of Five Guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give us a 5-star rating. Leave a review. Tell your family and friends all about us. Or you can go to groupoffiveguys.com and get you some Group of Five Guys swag. Thank you and good night.